Rest in peace. This one's pretty sad. Nipsy Hussell. Acclaimed hip-hop artist Nipsey Hussell was shot to death at his Marathon store this past week. It happened the day before he was set to have an anti-gang meeting the next day.
Jeez.
Somebody also shot up his vigil at the same location that same night. His most recent album, Victory Lap, pretty awesome. It was a commercial success and was also nominated for a Grammy.
Well, poor Nipsey. It looks like the victory lap is over.
No.
Right before he was shot, Nipsey tweeted, "Having strong enemies is a blessing," scoring a new Guinness Book World Record for being proved wrong the fastest. I guess he figured the only guy who'd ever shoot Nipsey Hussle would have been Nipsey Russell, who I also loved. Nipsey's memorial was held at the Staples Center. Ironically, he was at a Lakers game the day before where he watched the Lakers miss a lot of shots. Nipsey Hussle was very anti-gang. Coincidentally, Sonny Bono was also very anti-tree. To our homie Nipsey, enjoy your long napsy. And we'll see you on the other side, bro. Roast in peace. The great Nipsey Hussle.
Get ready for Jeff Ross. Do you have thick skin? Let's all come together.
Hello there, my emotional support humans. Thank you for listening to Thick Skin with Jeff Ross. Life is hard, but don't worry, we're getting through it together. Got a cool show planned today, really interesting show. Going to be talking to Troy Powell, who was just released from prison under the First Step Act. Amazing dude, and it's an amazing story. So Ed is here. Hi, Ed.
What's going on, bud? Hey, happy 30 years in comedy, man.
Oh, thanks, pal.
That's unbelievable.
I spent my 30th anniversary, April Fool's Day, in the fucking White House.
And it all went down like it was told to you, which is the biggest joke of it all.
What do you mean?
I mean, you should have been were you waiting for like the rug to be pulled out underneath you? You went to the White House for the first time on April Fool's Day?
Right. Trump has me deported. April Fools. I saw your border show.
Listen, Jeff, I'm not really president.
You are. Yeah, no, it was a crazy 30th anniversary. I started, my first stand-up gig ever was March 29th or whatever it is, the last day of March.
31st.
But I didn't get on until after midnight. So at the Ye Old Triple Inn on 54th Street, New York, I followed a bongo player. So he was good. He was good. And
Where is he now, though?
He's probably in the Trump administration. And here it is, 30. It flies, man. I still feel like a beginner. I still love it. Being a comedian's a great job. It gives you a backstage pass to the world. That's why I was so amazed when I got that invite to the White House.
Yeah, man.
That was a double take. I thought that could be an April Fool's joke.
How'd you get it? Was it like a FedEx? Was it a?
It came through the protocol office at the White House. It was an email. You know, I'm pretty sure Van Jones asked the president to invite me. Pretty sure that's what happened.
Or the other way around.
Or the president asked Van Jones to invite me. But never been invited to the White House. So
You did go to that cool USO event with Biden and Obama, but you never.
I did meet them at Andrews Air Force Base a few years ago.
But never the White House.
Never invited to the White House.
Well, congratulations, man. 30 years. You get invited to the White House.
A lot of people wouldn't go. Teams don't go sometimes.
You were torn. I saw you. You thought about it for like a full day and a half before you even answered.
It wasn't about politics. In the end, I decided this event was about criminal justice reform, to see people have their best day of their life. And as a son of a caterer, I love parties. But this wasn't about politics. It was about people. So I felt okay going. It was a rare, bright spot of non-political bipartisanship. Perhaps the only thing that's like that in modern Washington. So I went. And it was a great experience, actually. And I got to come home and celebrate my 30th anniversary with a good story.
Yeah,
which
man.
we will engage in today. We had a party to celebrate yesterday. It was so much fun. Thanks for barbecuing.
Dude, I love it. It makes me so happy. I'll cook all day long for you. It's so much. It's like I get to experience being a chef again, but without actually being a chef.
Yeah.
Which is so nice because personally, I could look up at Bob Saget and be like, "What do you want, sir? I would love to serve you."
Yeah.
It's not sweating over a grill at the frickin' cheesesteak factory.
Yeah. No, I felt a lot of love.
It was cool, man. Kai was making shirts. Coach T came and DJ'd.
It was great.
Tiffany Haddish started a twerk festival.
And Powell and Jasmine, they organized this amazing Sunday fun day. It was a perfect weather. I got pretty turned up. I definitely was in the hot tub with about 11 people of various shapes and sizes and orientations.
No judgment zone.
No. And Tiffany Haddish definitely was the life of the party.
She can't help it, man.
We watched the security footage of my backyard just for fun. And basically when Tiffany walks out to the middle of the grass, Coach T was DJing, my buddy, and Tiffany just starts dancing by herself. And within 30 seconds, 60 seconds, there's like 50 people on the lawn just bugging out with her.
I've never seen anything like it. It was unbelievable.
Yeah. Comics know how to party. It's not just Tiffany. She's a movie star. We know she's got the charisma.
And a party starter.
Yeah. But it's really comics. It's really comics who love to party. Comics are good party people. Mm-hmm. And my house is a safe space. You know what I mean? Comics can come and be themselves.
Yeah.
Not expected to perform or anything like that. Sometimes I get invited to a party and I was like, oh, here we go. I was at Paul Rudd's 50th.
Okay. That must have been fun.
Really, really fun. And very private affair. I'm not going to say too much, but let's just say there were a lot of Avengers there. And some huge movie stars, the biggest. And, everyone's like, you're going to roast them? You're going to roast them? You're going to roast them? And I'm like, no. I haven't had a Saturday night off in months. No, I'm not roasting him. I'm going to relax. And
But it's his 50th birthday. He deserves to just enjoy it.
yeah, I just wanted to sit there and get drunk and shoot the shit with Julia Roberts.
That's unbelievable.
It was amazing because I'm not going to have these free days much longer. I'm going to be on the road.
Well,
Me and Dave are doing a whole nother tour, bumping
It's
mics.
so exciting, dude.
I can't believe that he's agreed to all these dates. We're going to like the Borgata in Atlantic City, the Sands Bethlehem, the Mirage in Las Vegas, which is like Dave's favorite place in the world because
2 nights there.
they let him smoke in the elevator.
They let him go to the kitchen and smoke in there too, just so he can.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'm super extra excited about talking about criminal justice reform and my trip to the White House because and I'm glad I went. It was nothing short of amazing. I mean, this is what government should be doing. Should be having mercy on people. Not being mean to people, but having mercy on the human beings. And we're going to talk a little bit later with a man named Troy Powell who was recently released under the First Step Act, signed by the president. Troy's a good guy. I had dinner with him in Washington, and he'll be on the show a little bit later. We're also going to talk to Louis L. Reed, who is the national organizer of an organization started by Van Jones called Cut 50, and they helped push that law through. I've worked in jails, Ed was one of the producers on Jeff Ross Roast Criminals. We went down to Brazos County Jail a couple of years ago. Roasted some people in orange jumpsuits.
It's a crazy experience, man.
Inside every orange jumpsuit is somebody waiting to go home.
A human being.
A human being. And I'm a big believer in second chances. So I care about this issue, so I thought we would do a podcast about it. It's a nice break from all the bad news that we hear in the world and all the political cutthroat debates we hear. This was a rare bipartisan bill that went through Congress that got passed. It's called the First Step Act. You can read all about it. It's gotten not enough press because people want to talk about all the bad shit that is happening out of the White House. But this is one bright spot. But maybe there's some good people in the White House who helped push this through. I met a few of them when I was down there. And it's just a better world when we're nice to each other. And I sat there at the White House. I was invited by the President of the United States. I thought it was a joke at first when I read the fucking invitation. It's like, okay, criminal justice reform at the White House. That sounds really interesting. And I went down there, got some new shoes, nice suit, bought a nice shirt at the airport. Wanted to look my spiffiest.
Class
act. Because I don't know if I'm getting I don't know if I'm getting invited to the White House anytime soon. Again. It was cool.
Were you excited?
I was excited about being part of a celebration. You know, if I got invited to a political event down there, I wouldn't go. But because it was a celebration and actually seeing people freed. I mean, imagine being in jail for something that is now...
Nonviolent offense.
Imagine being in jail for something that's now legal. Imagine you sell some weed 20 years ago, they throw the book at you, and you live in a state where weed is legal now, and you're still in jail. So this law helps people like that. It also helps women have a little more dignity behind bars. This First Step Act has a lot of dimensions to it, which Lewis L. Reed will walk us through a little bit later in the show. But one thing that's really stuck out at me is free tampons for women in prison. Okay, I guess I can get behind that. That sounds reasonable.
So if you have no money and you're in prison, you're just using toilet paper.
That's right.
That's horrible.
Or whatever. No, I don't think it's that. I think you have to buy the tampons, and they're expensive, and it means you're not buying food or cigarettes or magazines or whatever you buy in prison.
Not everyone has money in their commissary, you know?
Right.
Not everyone has people that can hook them up with some cash on the outside. You know, so it's just, a lot of people just end up not getting these special things that you would think would be given to them, like salt and pepper.
Yeah. You have to buy that.
Yeah.
Whew. There's a lot of people in prison that should never come out, but most people, something like 90% of the people in jails and prisons around America right now, they're getting out. They're our neighbors, our future neighbors. Why not give them some hope? You know, and the murderers might not get out. Remember when I did the show in Brazos County Jail, my opening line was, "Where my murderer is at," and I was kind of half kidding, but 3 guys in the front and first and second row raised their hands. So I backed up to the back of the stage and finished my set. Where my murderer is at. So yeah. Anyway, I went down there with my pal Steve Ross, who's the founder of Artists and Athletes Alliance, because he's the one who's first introduced me to Cut 50. They had a dinner here in Los Angeles, and I went. I was curious, and I learned a lot about this First Step Act, which I signed on to. They asked for celebrities to sign the petition to the White House. This is a long time ago, almost a year ago, I bet. And nobody was signing that shit. it was like, it's not that they didn't believe in the cause, but nobody was doing anything with Trump. They didn't want anything to do with bipartisanship or giving Trump a chance to do something good. People just were not into it. But me and a few other people signed on. My pal Seth Green signed on.
Cool.
And some ball players. And I saw slowly this thing steamroll where it started to pass through Capitol Hill, and the president signed it, and they had a big ceremony late last year in the Oval Office. And I was like, wow. Van, Jessica, the two people from Cup 50, they made it happen. They care about the incarcerated, and it was like a miracle. Amongst all this toxic shittiness that has to do with politics, here was some cool moment. So, look, I look at modern-day incarceration as modern-day slavery.
It's insane.
So you're going to free 500 people, and that's how many people have been freed by the First Step Act so far. This is some Lincoln shit. And it was beautiful. It was a beautiful, beautiful ceremony. I walk in the White House, and there's 3 layers of security. You show your ID, and you walk past a drug-sniffing dog, which definitely made me nervous. Even though I had no drugs on me, I was like, I don't know this fucking dog. And you go in, and it's very elegant. You walk around the green room, the red room, these beautiful rooms. I'll post pictures on my Instagram. They had a beautiful Marine band playing as you walk in, and the Marines are all there as sort of the chaperone / security at the White House, and they're all very friendly, and they were happy to see me. I really felt like a big shot walking through the White House. And I met some Democrats, and I met some Republicans, and we got ushered into the East Room. I took a seat in the second row. It was really exciting just to be in the White House. As a fan of history, the surreal nature of it was kind of crazy, having known Trump, I don't even know how long now, since the late 90s, having roasted him at the Friars Club, and a bunch of times he would come to the roasts, and he hired me down to go to Mar-a-Lago and do shows over the years.
It's like a work associate for you.
Yeah.
It's bizarre.
It was bizarre, but more than that, I mean, when I was at Mar-a-Lago, he really befriended me. I remember him like blowing off these German businessmen that he was supposed to play golf with just to sit by the pool and tell me dirty jokes. He just wanted to hear jokes. He loves jokes. I mean, he is a good comic. He roasted his way into the White House somehow.
Yeah.
And we all wait. All of a sudden, Hail to the Chief plays, and he comes in, and he starts being the president. No politics. It was riveting, because behind him was 5 people that were recently freed under this First Step Act. And I started crying. It was emotional to see these people who were in jail a month before suddenly standing there in the White House. I mean, what a jump. And what was so cool was the president had a speech, and he thanked certain people in his administration. His attorney general was there, William Barr, who everybody was staring at because he came in first. And he's he's all embroiled in the Mueller investigation right now. So he was a very controversial figure, but he just walked in like any other dude. And he came over. He knew my pal Steve Ross. So I got introduced to the Attorney General. And it was a great meeting between the Attorney General and the Roastmaster General. Like the Mueller report, I will have to redact most of our conversation for our listeners, but he told me 3 Polish jokes, and He was cool. He was very friendly. I congratulated him on passing this law. Very brief conversation. And there was probably 75 reporters in the back of the room catching all this. And the president is making his speech. And he gave Walmart a lot of credit. He gave his, for hiring some of the people that are coming out of jail. Apparently Jared and Ivanka had a lot to do with this law pushing through. So he thanked them. And he mentioned that Ivanka called the head of Walmart to get jobs for some of the people that were being freed. And these aren't just like any type of criminal. These were people with stellar prison records, people who went to prison and then used that time to educate themselves and learn a trade and stuff like that.
Yeah, and plus they were in there for non-violent reasons.
That's correct.
Yeah, and it just makes sense to help them out a little bit. And besides, enough criminals already work at Walmart.
I guess so. And the whole thing was like less than an hour. Trump made a nice long speech, but right in the middle of the speech, he started introducing the people behind him. So they're all standing there behind the president, and he did something I don't think most politicians would do. He turned to them. My new friend Troy was first. He introduced Troy, told Troy's story about how he had sold crack 20 years ago. But he got too long a sentence. And he said, Troy, would you like to say something? and Troy made a beautiful speech off the cuff where he talked about his time in prison. He said, I should have gone to prison, but I shouldn't have gone for that long. He talked about the people that he left behind that had been in there 40 or 50 years, that will be in there for 40 or 50 years for nonviolent drug offenses. He made the point that some people should never come out, but I was impressed because if the president, any president, called me up off the cuff in front of all those reporters, I would have been really nerve-wracking. That is some intense performance pressure right there. But Troy knocked it out of the park, and the president, I mean, he didn't know any of these people. They could have said anything.
Yeah.
They're vetted, but they're not necessarily. They're all have an open mic.
They also probably don't want them to prepare, you would think. Like, if they prepare, they might be more willing to
think it through too much.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful event, beautiful speeches. The woman that Kim Kardashian helped free was there, Alice something. And that was a beautiful, she spoke briefly. It was just amazing. I'll never forget it. It truly was a celebration. Imagine you're in jail. You don't give a shit who the president is. You just want to get out. There's no politics if you just want to get out while you still have some life to live.
16, 20 years behind bars. Are you going to wait?
Yeah. And afterwards, we had a dinner. Artists and Athletes Alliance hosted a dinner. So we had this beautiful Mexican dinner at Jose Andres' place. And I got to sit next to this guy, Troy Powell. So now here I am on the biggest day of his life. I happen to be the guy sitting next to him. We're having a couple of drinks. We start shooting the shit. I asked him what the first thing he did when he got out of jail was.
What did he say?
He gave me a long, slow burn, and he goes, "What do you think?" Which wasn't really an answer, but it really wasn't. It was just, it was kind of perfect. And he was a funny guy. Like, even when he made his speech in front of the whole world at the White House, I was like, oh, no, man, impromptu speeches. What if he calls me up? You know, just for some comic relief. I only had one good joke. Mr. President, by releasing all these people, you give their lives More happy endings than Robert Kraft on a weekend in Florida. But I had a nice meal with Troy and all the other people that were just recently unincarcerated. And I asked Troy if he would tell me about the feelings of being freed on this First Step Act after 16 years in prison. And he agreed to talk to us. So without further ado, let's just say hi to Troy Powell, who's calling in. Hey, what's happening, Troy? Troy Powell, everybody.
What's up?
Thanks for coming on Thick Skin, my podcast.
No problem. It's an honor.
Let me tell you something, man. You have been on my mind since we met at the White House because, man, I thought I was a good off-the-cuff performer. Now, you were standing on stage behind the President of the United States, and he tells your story. The President said, "One of these newly freed Americans is Troy Powell, who is with us today." And he turns to you and he tells your story. He said in 2004, Troy was sentenced to 20 years for doing a drug offense. I don't know why the president says doing a drug offense, but that's how he talks.
One of these newly freed Americans is Troy Powell, who is with us today. In 2004, Troy was sentenced to 20 years for doing a drug offense. During his 15 years in prison, he took courses and worked as an electrician, and he got really good at being an electrician, really good. In fact, if you ever lose your job, come see me. I need electricians. We could use them right here in the White House, Troy. You want to know that? In February, Troy was released under the First Step Act. 9 days later, he was hired at Boone Lumber Company in Lenoir, North Carolina. And now Troy is saving, and really saving, a lot of money, because he's doing well. You know, our economy is helping a little bit, Troy, I'll tell you. But he's saving money to buy a home, and he's got one in mind, one particular home in mind. He'll get it. I have no doubt about it. So, Troy, congratulations. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you, man. You want to say a couple of words?
Yeah, sure.
He didn't know about it.
Man, this is crazy. Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you to everybody here on Capitol Hill for finally getting this bill pushed through. I mean, I know there was a lot of work involved in it, and I would like to say thank you to the organizations that got me here, like Cut 50 and Amy Can Do. Them people, I mean, they've done so much for me. It's unbelievable how much they've done for me. I never thought this bill would pass, and coming home and finding places like Boone Lumber Company that took a chance on me right out the door. I mean, no problem. Come on to work, you know. I can't thank everybody enough for that, but more than just thanking everybody for these things, there's more that can be done. I left so many people behind in prison doing 40 and 50 years for nothing. I mean, absolutely nothing. I mean, should I have went to prison? Absolutely. I committed a crime, but for 20 years for the small things that I done, I should have definitely went to prison. And I don't know what to say. I think there should be a second step. That's what I say. There should be a second step.
It was an amazing thing. He turned to you, and he also said 9 days after you were released, you were hired by Boone Lumber Company in North Carolina, and now, Troy, you're saving money to buy a house. Is that true?
Oh, yes, definitely true. I'm saving money. I haven't did too much of that since I just got out and I had a whole lot of stuff to buy. But yeah, I've definitely been saving money because I got to get a house. For the main reason of I'm 42 years old and I just got out of prison and I'm staying in my parents' house. Yeah, got to get a place.
Yeah.
So you were in prison for 15 years.
Yeah.
And on a crack cocaine charge, I guess.
Yeah.
Which I guess you're okay talking about. Not everybody would be as open as you are.
Yeah, it's all good.
And where did that happen?
Where did it happen? North Carolina.
North Carolina. What's that?
I got a conspiracy to distribute cocaine and crack. So that's what the charge was.
Are you a conspiratorial type? I don't know. I don't see that in you, but
No, that ain't. It says conspiracy. It just means you knew some people.
yeah, right. And so there you are on stage with the President of the United States. He turns to you and he says, "Troy, do you want to say anything?" Now, what's going through your mind in that moment?
What do I say?
The first thing yeah.
Because I seen my name coming up on the teleprompter in my story that he was reading off. I said, "Oh man, I'm getting ready to have to go up here and say something." So I was like, "Oh man, what am I gonna say?" I said, "I guess I better tell him thank you."
Good idea. You actually said, "Oh my God, man, this is crazy." And then you thanked everybody on Capitol Hill for finally getting this bill pushed through, this law, this First Step Act. So that was a very classy move on your part, Troy.
Well, absolutely, I had to say something.
Did you know much about the law until you were freed, or were you studying the law while you were locked up?
Well, I mean, over the years, bills had passed and everything come along, and it seemed like everything would almost fit me, except for there was that one little clause in there that, oh, Troy don't get it because of this, or Troy don't get it because of that. And I knew this bill was happening, and I didn't think it was going to fit me. And I was sitting at work one day reading this bill because somebody at work had it, and I was like, wait a second, where's the part in there that says it don't fit me? I'm looking for that part. You know, I'm reading it and reading over, and I was like, wait a second, this fits me. Shit. So I talked to my one of my friends that did a little law work, and then I got a letter from the public defender's office. They was like, "We're going to get you out of here." So I didn't really know too much about it. I just kind of had, a little bit of knowledge of it.
This is what I love. This podcast is about getting through life. Life is hard. Now, people so often wait for others to help them. I'm so impressed. I'm so glad you told me that you reached for it, that you were reading the laws before they were even signed. You were really looking for some light, for some hope, for a second chance for yourself. And I think that's so important for people to know.
Absolutely, definitely. I mean, if you just sit in there and don't do anything, you'll just sit in there and not do anything, and you'll do every bit of your time.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, you were in there at 16. I mean, that's a half a lifetime right there, buddy. And you're still young enough. You're still young enough to appreciate life. And I had dinner with you after the White House event, and I didn't sense any bitterness in you. You know, and if I were you, you went in there for a non-violent drug offense, is my understanding, and they gave you 20 years. I mean, I don't know what I would have done. I would have banged my head against the cell until I killed myself. I would have been so sad, and I don't know how you got through it.
There wasn't much you could do. I mean, it was pretty much, you're going to do this time or don't do it.
And you studied while you were in there, huh?
Oh, yeah. Well, I didn't really know too much about computers or any of that type of stuff, so I made sure that I got into jobs where I learned about Excel, PowerPoints, Microsoft, and SAP programs and stuff like that, just so I'd have a little heads up when I come home, because nowadays, if you can't use a computer, you're in trouble.
Yeah, that's right. And one thing that I really admired in your impromptu speech at the White House in the East Room was, and by the way, just to paint the picture, the vice president's sitting there, the cabinet is sitting there. There's, I mean, the fucking roastmaster general is sitting there. I mean, you must have been nervous with me.
Sitting there, and you're like, "Whoa, my God!"
And you did you made a classy move. You gave a shout out to the other people, the other non-violent drug offenders back in prison that you left behind. And I'm sure they're going to read that and see that in the news.
Oh, I've heard a lot about it already. I've had plenty of people call me and send me emails from prison talking about it. There's a big buzz at the prison where I just left from.
Mm-hmm. And you gave a nice shout out to Cut 50 and Lewis Reed and Susan and Van Jones, which I thought, and Amy Can Do, which I thought was great. All the people that are advocates in criminal justice reform. So it was a classy move on your part, Troy.
Well, that's the people that got me to where I was, so I can't. You couldn't leave them out.
No. And when you figured out they were taking you to the White House, where were you? Where were you? You've only been out of jail about 5 weeks or so, right?
Yeah, I've been out about 5 weeks. Well, Alex from Cut 50 called me and was like, "Hey, they're having a thing at the White House," and then Amy Povich from Can Do called me and was like she needed to do a bio for it, and it was pretty. They didn't even really seem like they didn't even really ask me. It was like, "Hey, you're going to the White House," and there's really like there's no turning that down anyway. So they just started putting the stuff together for me and made it happen.
Now, oh man, I mean I just can't imagine. That was some real life. That was a real life emotional moment. I'm a professional comedian, and if the president of the United States called me up to a podium impromptu, I would shit myself, man. I don't know. You really held it. You were the first one he called up there too. He took a big risk, right? Because he doesn't really know you. You could have said anything.
Yeah. Oh, I could have easily bashed him. The wall or something, but we'll leave that out.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're a guy who got over the prison walls, man. You're in good shape. You're counting your blessings, but it must be a little bittersweet because I can't imagine necessarily you're a political guy. I mean, do you follow politics? Did you have an opinion about Trump before he essentially signed this law that freed you?
I didn't really have an opinion one way or the other. I mean, I kind of did like that he pretty much tries to do what he says he was going to do. But I didn't really have an opinion one way or the other about the guy.
I see. And then you get out and you're at the White House and you're wearing a tie. So you change basically a month after wearing prison garb, an orange jumpsuit, I guess, some kind of jumpsuit. Well, you're wearing a shirt and tie, looking classy. Did you have friends with you?
No, actually, I drove up myself. I actually just jumped in the car and drove up. It was 6 hours.
Really? That's beautiful. Wow. Did you smoke any weed on the way?
I had probation for 8 years, so I really can't right away.
So you're on probation, so you can't even vote for Trump, can you?
No, I can't vote for anybody.
You're kind of in the perfect position to be to not piss anybody off. It's kind of and then you know what? You'd probably read about the food at the White House. Often the president will have fast food there, and then we walk out into the dining room and they had this beautiful buffet.
Oh yeah, it was surprising.
How does the White House food compare to prison food?
I think it was just a touch better for sure.
That's so great, man. And do you have a message for the people that are? Here's what you said. Here's what you said in your speech. You said, but more than just thanking everybody here for these things, there's more that can be done. I left so many people behind in prison doing 40 and 50 years for nothing. I mean, absolutely nothing. I mean, should I have went to prison? Absolutely. I committed a crime. But for 20 years, for the small things that I had done, I should have definitely went to prison. And I don't know what to say. I think there should be a second step. That's what I say. And the crowd applauded. And you said it again. I think there should be a second step. So I love that. I love that you were thinking about other people in your moment of glory. That really shows. That really shows what kind of person you are, Troy.
Well, yeah, there actually is a lot of people in there doing a lot of time for small crimes, and I mean, there's people in prisons that need to be there. I'll be the first to say there's people that need to be there, but there's a lot of people that really don't need to be there for the amount of time that they got for nonviolent offenses.
Did you meet some people? You probably met some people in all those years that you were like, I hope this person never fucking gets out.
Yeah, and to tell you the truth, the bad part, the people that I think should never get out, all the pedophiles, they're the first ones out the door. Short sentences. I mean, that's the ones I think should never get out of prison. The ones that really put their hands on kids and stuff. they should never get out. That's my opinion.
Right.
But I mean, they're the first ones out the door with the 20-month sentences or the 2-year sentences.
Were you a 3 strikes person? Is that what happened?
Oh, no. I had 1 felony for 19 grams of marijuana. They used that to enhance me to give me the 851, the career criminal. If it wouldn't have been for that 19 grams of weed, I would have got 78-month sentence.
19, that's not even an ounce.
Yeah, it was the reason it was short of an ounce is because I done smoked a blunt.
Shit, I smoked more than that already before I called you. Man, 19 grand. What?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Man. And you're a white guy.
Yeah.
You always hear stories about, white privilege. The white guy will slip through. They're not going to be too hard on him, but they were hard on you.
Yeah, I didn't slip through.
No, they made an example of you.
How hard was it to find work for you after this?
Well, I got lucky. I had a friend. One of my good friends. He owns a place called New Image Tent and Sound. He sold me a car, and he hooked me up with one of the guys that he does a lot of business with that owned a lumber company. And the guy put me right to work. I went and seen him, and he put me to work the next day.
Oh, that's
Wow.
great. You're very lucky.
But you're doing tough work. You're doing manual labor, and I really respect that. That's not an easy life, my man.
Yeah, I don't plan to stay doing the manual labor. There's other opportunities at the company. It's a pretty big company. They do big business there, so I don't plan to be out there loading logs forever. You can believe that.
I can't. I'll never forget the look on your face and the look on the other people, the recently freed people standing behind the president, and it wasn't a political moment. And I know people are listening to this going, "Oh, you know what? How dare you give credit to Trump? He does so much stuff that upsets people." But in that moment, it wasn't about politics. It was about people. It was about the 500 people that have already been freed under this First Step Act. And it was genuinely a beautiful moment. If you're in jail, you don't give a hoot who the president is. You just want to get out while you have some life left to live.
Absolutely.
And I have to credit the bipartisanship on both sides, the Democrats and the Republicans, who somehow, in some way, made this law happen and are getting some people out of jail. It really is a wonderful day for you, and thank you for sharing with us today, man. How did you get through those 16 years? What did you do? Did you tell jokes? Did you think about comedy? Did you think about your folks back home? Like, how did you get through life?
We did a little bit of everything. Get up and worked every day, worked out every day. Oh, we had a good time. Oh, joking, giving people hard times. That's definitely in there. There was plenty of roasting going on in there.
Do you remember any roasting stories?
Oh man, you don't want to hear them roasted stories from in there.
Come on. Must have been one big fat ugly dude that everybody made fun of.
Well, I'm telling you, the stories of in there getting roasted, cops coming around catching you cooking in the trash can with the stingers and all that type stuff.
Wow, man. You're a survivor, man, and you're a guy who took his own fate into his hands, and you found the opportunity, and you were ready because you had good behavior for all those years. So you got 3 or 4 years knocked off your sentence, thanks to the good people at Cut 50 who got this law passed. Really amazing story. Troy, any advice? Any advice for anybody who's in jail right now, in prison right now, who might somehow hear this?
The best advice I can give them is to keep their head up, stay busy, learn something while you're in there. Definitely learn a trade or a skill while you're in there, and get with one of these organizations and get your story out there. And it may be the one that the president's talking about next.
Hell yeah! Where are you right now, Troy?
I'm at home right now in North Carolina.
All right, man. Well, you got a friend in L.A., man. You ever get this way, you look me up and come by the comedy club, and we'll make you laugh a little bit.
I'll definitely do it.
All right, pal. Appreciate you, man. Stay free.
That's the plan.
All right. Big hugs, Troy. Thank you so much for sharing. See you, bud.
Great. Thanks, man. It was great talking to you.
No problem, man. I appreciate it.
Ask him if he has a Twitter
Do you have a Twitter or something
anything
like
you
that?
want us to mention. If any of your new fans any hot chicks want to reach out, or
Hey, man, I've had like 1,000 friend requests on Facebook since that happened.
Oh, yeah?
It is ridiculous. I just set up a Twitter account. I don't really get on there much, but between Instagram and Facebook, oh my God! it's
what's your
ridiculous.
Facebook? What's your Instagram and Facebook? Maybe we'll find you a wife, or a girlfriend, or a weekend.
Troy Powell on Facebook, and it's TP75893 is my Instagram.
Wait. You
don't
put out your
have to have an inmate number anymore. You can
what the?
I set that up in prison when I had a cell phone in prison. So.
Or give it to us one more time, because you're gonna get some mail.
What's your Instagram?
It's TP75893.
What a coincidence! That's my license plate. You probably made it.
Love it, man. It's been great talking to you. Congratulations. And you didn't deserve how long you were in there, man. And I'm glad you're out.
All right, y'all. Take it to give me a holler anytime.
All right, thanks, Troy.
Rock and roll. So why do you think this didn't get as much press as some of the other stuff? Like, why didn't this get as much press as, like, Trump messing up the guy from Apple's name? You know?
Well, it's not a fun story necessarily like that, where you're going to make a million jokes about it. That's one reason. Another reason is the press is so divided. So if they come together, the last thing CNN and Fox News want to do is give the other side credit for something.
Yeah.
And I did ask Van Jones why this issue is different, and he said it just is. It just is. You can't get this kind of traction with immigration. You can't get this kind of traction with foreign policy. But for some reason, I think a big part of it is Jared Kushner. I think he's probably has some liberal-leaning tendencies, his New York City upbringing.
Yeah.
And I think he can't do...
He's got family in jail.
And he can't really help on certain things, but I think he can help in the criminal justice reform area.
Yeah.
And
I think people get it. The numbers don't lie. 25% of the world's prison population is in America. A quarter of everybody. We got them behind our bars.
right.
And so that's insane. 1 out of every 100 people is behind bars in America. Not cool.
Right.
There are more.
Think about that, folks. 1 out of 100 people in America is in jail right now.
There's more prisons and jails in this country than colleges and universities. There are more black men in jail now than were slaves
Right.
in the 1850s.
Right.
These are all horrible facts. I know that there's more people in America now than there were back then, but still that's messed up. We shouldn't be able to say that. And then people are in the 3 Strikes Act, 3 strikes and you're out. People go to jail for 20, 30 years because of just having a little bit of cocaine in their pocket. Now, I don't do coke, but I don't think someone should go to jail for 30 years because they have some in their pocket. I don't think that's making them a better person.
Right.
It's just making all of us scared.
But that having been said, if you're going to throw someone in jail between the pot guy or the coke guy, I'd much rather get rid of the coke guy.
He's way more annoying.
Yeah.
He's way
It kind of reminds me of an old Bill Cosby joke from when I was a kid. Why, I asked the man, why do you do the cocaine? And the man said, it enhances my personality. And I said, what if you're an asshole?
It's still funny.
Yeah. I don't think Bill Cosby's getting out on the First Step Back. someone please phone Van Jones? He's a good friend. I met him on the golf course. There's a lot of different types of criminals, man. There just is.
Tell me about the trip. Did they like give you a tour, or was it just in and out?
No. We mingled. We got Steve and I. We got there early.
Lincoln bedroom, all that stuff.
No, we didn't do all that stuff. That's like in the other wing. That's more the public tour.
Okay.
We were basically like in the residence side of the building. I think it's the east wing. The east room was where this ceremony took place. If
Interesting.
You will. So that's why I didn't want to give up that opportunity, because you don't really get to see those beautiful, very, very beautiful, and the staff of the White House. And I remember Instagramming like all the delicious food that they served after the ceremony. I was really hoping for hamburgers and fast food, because that seems to be the trend at the White House lately. But they had this beautiful spread, and I happened to have a quick shot on my Instagram story of the pastries. And then I got a direct message from the pastry chef who happened to catch it. And said, "Hey, thanks for shouting out my pastries. We really work hard, and my wife and I make those." So shout out to the White House staff. Nice people. And the social secretary and everybody there were really, really, truly lovely people. So the White House is very well taken care of. It's nice to know.
How was who else was there?
Vivica Fox, I think.
Cool.
Isaiah Washington.
Nice.
Nice guy. A couple football players I didn't quite know. Ben Carson, Secretary of
Brain surgery.
And Rick Perry, the Secretary of Energy. Jared and Ivanka. I did speak to Jared afterwards.
What's
and
his
I
deal?
congratulated him.
Is he cool?
He was very nice. He has a nice staff. He was there way back when I roasted Donald Trump on Comedy Central, so he remembered that and had nice, fond memories. He said he misses those days where he could go to all these wacky events with the Donald, as they called him back then. And I asked him basically, like, does he still have a sense of humor? And he kind of laughed. And he said he was happy to see me at the White House. And I said, I said, when you guys do good things, friends are going to show up. Even though I didn't support him in the election, I consider Trump a friend. And when a friend does something good, I'm going to come and congratulate him. This is one good thing that I think I think he did a good thing here.
I mean, I think that is you deserve credit where credit is due. And I think people are like, oh, well, he's so awful. Why would you do that? It's like, if you don't do it, then why would he ever want to do anything good? If he's just going to like do something good and no one's going to care or no one's going to give a shit and still yell at him, why would you ever do anything good?
It's tricky because a lot of people would say the other side, which is, why give Trump anything that he can run on? Now he's going to say that he's done, black people will love me because I got into criminal justice reform, and they have the worst brunt of it. Most of the laws, old crime laws, are racist and one-sided. We're white, we have privilege. But
a lot of them put in place by Clinton.
Interesting.
So it's for it to be removed now, it's really you're gonna see society get better. Now if other states can start following what Florida did and let people with felonies vote.
Yeah, that was the one funny thing I said to Troy and some of the people, like, they can't even vote for Trump after all that. He freed them, so in a small way, it's not a political event, but in the bigger way, he can, the Trumpers can say that they got something done with the Democrats. So some people would say that maybe this isn't a good. Don't give Trump a win under any circumstances. But we're a couple years into it's not campaign season yet. It's not a political thing. It's a people thing.
This is the most human thing I've seen passed in a while.
And by the way, to his credit, Trump didn't mention politics once. One of the people in their impromptu speeches said, last month I was in the White House, in the big house, and now I'm in the White House. That's how you make America great again. And of course, the place went crazy, and even I had to kind of like laugh and be happy for Trump in that moment because he just looked like the happiest little boy in the world. Like he couldn't believe like he gave this guy a mic, and he got the best sound clip ever. But Trump freedom. Trump signed the First Step Act, and he's one of the 500 people, and Trump did promise to fund it. And Van said afterwards he had private talks with Jared Kushner, and they're going to fund it. The question is, what's the Second Step Act? And to answer some more detailed questions about exactly what went down and where criminal justice reform is heading, I want to talk to the national organizer of Cut 50, the group that helped make this whole thing a reality. Let's call up Lewis L. Reed at the barbershop right now. Thank you for taking time from your haircut, Lou. It was great meeting you, man. I was really impressed by how it all went down in Washington. Seeing the president sign that bill into law, bringing us one step closer to fixing a broken criminal justice system that has torn too many families apart. Thank you for being a part of something great for America and all those people.
Thanks so much, Jeff. Well, first and foremost, it's not often that you can get a brother to get out of the barber chair to have a conversation with somebody.
That's harder than getting a brother out of jail.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that speaks to your level of specialness and just who you are as a person. And as described, my name is Lewis L. Reed. I'm the national organizer for Cut 50. Cut 50 is a bipartisan criminal justice organization co-founded by CNN political commentator Van Jones and also Jessica Jackson. And we have two very distinct but simplistic missions. Number one, we want to be able to reduce the prison population. And number two, we want to be able to reduce crime in the United States of America. And we want to do that within the next 10 years. So it's due to the goodwill and the support and also the access for people such as you who don't think that you are so much of a celebrity that you are so far away removed from issues as such. And we are just so greatly appreciative of your contributions as well.
Well, I was really there for moral support. I came to a Artists and Athletes Alliance event in Los Angeles, and I learned all about Cut 50. That's where I met you, Lou, and Van, and Jessica. And it just blew my mind. I have performed in jails. I'm a big believer in second chances. I learned a lot about minimum drug sentences, which basically is slavery. I mean, you're sending people to prison for 20, 30 years over, a bag of weed and stuff like that. So I go, man, I sold joints in high school. There by the grace of God, go I. And I go, wow, I'm lucky, man. I had a privileged life. So I saw those people basically get freed at the White House. And, politics aside, this is what government should do. Government should have mercy on people, on its citizens, even the quote unquote criminals.
And well, Jeff, to add to that, I think that people, not government, should have mercy on people, but people should have mercy on people. And people should extend grace to other people, irrespective to whether or not you have the position as being a prosecutor, you have the title of being a judge, and or you have the duties discharged to you as being a police officer or law enforcement. I think that there should be a degree of grace that is extended to people, because just like how you said, but for the grace of God, there go I. So, just a little bit about my background and some context for your listening audience. I did nearly 14 years in federal prison. And when I was in, exactly, that's what I say every time I think about it. While I was incarcerated, I had the distinct privilege of having access to education. And I say privilege because just like how you use privilege in the context of not having had to matriculate through our criminal justice system, for lack of a better term.
Right.
I had the privilege of actually matriculating through university while I was incarcerated. And it was through that access to education that I realized something is not right about our criminal justice system.
Mm-hmm.
One day I just happened to look around me, and I looked in the common area, and I was in upstate New York in Raybrook, where previously it was the compound for the 1980 U.S. Olympians. And now
Right.
this, once historic site had been now retrofitted into a prison. And I looked around, Jeff, and I saw something.
Yeah.
I saw that the majority of the people there were black, brown, and poor whites. And the people who have been disproportionately sentenced and excessively prosecuted were black, brown, and poor whites. And I said to myself, something has to change. And I am going to be a part of a solution. One of the things that I always say is that those who are closest to the problem are closest to the solution,
Of
but we're
course.
often furthest from resources and power. So I wanted to embark on a journey that was going to be steadfast and determined in being able to recalibrate our criminal justice system. My experience has not been without turbulence. Approximately 18 months, 2 years ago, I was rearrested for child support arrears that accrued while I was incarcerated.
Oh, my
And you have to
goodness.
consider, Jeff, you have to consider that my baby mama drama didn't come via, me having a child that was 3 years old, 5 years old, or even 18 years old. My daughter at the time when her mother brought me back to court for child support arrears was almost 20 years old.
Wow.
So I was rearrested, re-prosecuted in our criminal justice system on a state level. But what it did was it just lit more vigor inside of me. It lit more passion inside of me, and it lit more of a righteous determination for me to be able to stay the course and to make sure that we have the Catherine Tonys free, that we have the Alice Marie Johnsons free, that we have the Dennis Brodnacks free, and, ad infinitum, that we make sure that these people who are incarcerated, number one, have access to education, basic literacy, such as GED testing, such as vocational training, etc., but to also rewrite those wrongs in their sentences, hence the First Step Act.
Right. Wow. How did you find Cut 50?
I don't think that it was a question of how did I find Cut 50. I think that Cut 50 and how did we find each other?
Right.
Interestingly enough, I'm unapologetically Christian, and I believe that God will intersect you with the lives of other people for a reason, season, or a lifetime. It's just one of those gems that my grandmother passed on to me before she passed away last year.
Mm-hmm.
But I got a call one day when I was in the throes of a clinical depression after I was rearrested, after I'm re-engaged in the criminal justice system in the state of Connecticut. I lost my job as the first reentry director for the largest city in Connecticut, working for the mayor.
Wow.
And I'm in the throes. Yeah. I had to leave the city of Bridgeport under fire, and I am in the throes of a clinical depression. Then one day, my phone rings. And it was a mutual colleague, and he said, "Hey, listen, do you know anything about Van Jones?" And I said, "I know a little bit about the cat. Why? What's good? What does he want to interview me? Does he want to drag me a little bit more?" He was like, "Nah." He said he actually has a criminal justice organization. They're working on this bill called the First Step Act. I'm like, "Listen, I got some trepidation about the bill. I'm hearing ultimately that there are people who take issues to this bill. And it's just not something that I want to get involved with and be a part of right now." And he said, "Listen, man, I think that this is something by which, you should be a part of." And so I met with him. Our stories aligned, and here I am.
It's beautiful. What I saw at the White House the other day was nothing short of a miracle. I saw 5 or 6 formerly, very recently incarcerated people on stage with the President of the United States. This was not about politics. This was about people. This was mercy. This was a miracle. If you're in prison and then a month later you're on stage at the White House, and then you can go off and companies like Walmart are helping hire formerly incarcerated people, and I learned so much. And I felt like I was witnessing the most important moment in those people's lives, arguably. I mean, it was a true, glorious moment. This has got to fill you with a lot of pride over at Cut 50. I mean, you guys really should be proud of yourselves right now for helping this law, this First Step Act, pass. My question for you, Louis, is Do you think the law will be fully funded? Do you think President and the Trump administration will back up their promise to see this through?
Well, at best, we can take the president at his word. As you heard at the White House the other day, the president said that he was going to fully fund this bill. He said that he was committed to criminal justice reform. And I often tell people, I got 99 problems with Trump, but the First Step Act ain't one of them.
Right.
So I think that, we have to take him at his word. Thus far on the issue of criminal justice, he has been consistent. Now there are other issues as relates to policy around immigration, around other things that, there's been some level of inconsistency on. But at the very least, this issue, he has been very consistent, and we just have to take him at his word.
Well, I'll be careful there because he said his father was born in Germany the other day. So. But what will you explain? Will you explain to people who might be curious what exactly the First Step Act does?
Sure. So the First Step Act does one of several things. So there's prison reform and there's also sentencing reform.
Right.
So when we're talking about prison reform, again, we are talking about giving people access to education. Approximately 16,000 people who were currently waitlisted for general or basic literacy, I should say, giving them access to education. This is going to also prohibit the shackling of women who are pregnant while incarcerated. It's also going to allow women who are incarcerated to have access to free feminine hygiene products so that they don't have to go to commissary and purchase those items at a very exponential rate markup, I should say. It will allow compassionate release as well for people who are over the years of 70, people who have served approximately 30% of their sentence and who have mitigating factors in order to allow them to release. Those are just a few of the highlights on the prison reform side. Mm-hmm. On the sentencing reform side, you may be familiar with something that's called the Fair Sentencing Act. And essentially what that means is that there's a crack cocaine disparity with people who get busted either selling and or possessing crack versus cocaine. Now, when you reduce that in simplistic terms in the hood, I think that the only difference is that, the wealthy and the privileged snort cocaine in the yacht clubs, and people who look like me use coke, use crack on street corners. So we wanted to be able to try to recalibrate that disparity as much as possible.
Level the playing field, if you will.
Correct, yeah. So that will allow those people who have been prosecuted excessively under crack to be released, and we have already seen those people released under that very draconian and unjust law. So it's slated to release approximately 7,000 people on both the prison reform side and the crack cocaine side virtually imminently.
That's amazing, dude. You're doing really cool work. Really, really cool work.
Thank you.
What's next? What's the second step look like? The First Step Act passed. It'll get funded. What's the second step look like? Why do you think the Trump administration is even playing along in a bipartisan way?
Well, I can't speculate. But what I will say is this. I think that you used the word that it aptly describes what happened with the First Step Act. Nothing less than a miracle. You think about this. We got this bill passed on December 23rd. December 23rd, 8 hours before government shutdown. You had Reverend Al Sharpton aligned with President Donald J. Trump. If there was a recipe for disaster, I think that it would have existed in those ingredients. But we got a miracle, man. And so obviously we're focused on the implementation of the First Step Act. The Second Step Act, in my opinion, is going to include maybe some retroactivity around 924C. 924C is the stacking of gun charges. So essentially what that means, and I'll give you a very brief example or story. There was one individual in particularly who, when the police went to go arrest him, they found an inoperable gun that his grandfather had. It was a war relic above the fireplace. And not only did they charge the individual with what they were there to arrest him on, but they also gave him a consecutive sentence that inflated his prison sentence, which would have originally have been somewhere in the neighborhood of about 3 years, all the way up to 20 years. So we want to be able to rectify and recalibrate those issues as well.
Right. Huh. Man. What's it like coming out of prison for somebody, either you or some of the people that I met in Washington recently? What is it like after a decade and a half to come back? What kind of help do the people need? It must be a real shock to the system. People come out with PTSD.
You call it PTSD. I call it PTSDR. That's prison traumatic stress disorder remixed. Because the people who are disproportionately impacted by by our criminal justice system are those people who are black and brown and poor whites. And Puff Daddy invented the remix, so I just added a little sexier flavor to it. But it's just imagine having a Martian dropped off in the middle of Times Square.
Yeah.
And then made to ask for directions or made to ask for help of some sort. That's what it's like. I mean, Jeff, I remember the first time when I was home, I went to a mall, and sights and sounds and all of these fluorescent and neon lights, etc. I got overwhelmed. I got so overwhelmed to the degree that I had to leave the mall, and I went and sat in the car. And my family was like, "Are you okay?" And I just made up some flimsy excuse like, "Oh yeah, I have to check in with my supervised release officer." But the truth be told was that I was scared. I was having an anxiety attack because it was just too overwhelming. So I think that on a practical level, there are things that are needed in terms of housing. There are things that are needed in terms of employment. There are things that are needed in terms of just basic transportation. And we want to make sure that all of those people who are returning back to our communities have access to those basic things.
That's great, man. You're really fun to talk to, Lewis. You're my second favorite Lou Reed, by the way.
I'm far much more handsome, and I'm far much more alive. So I'll take that.
And you've both taken a walk on the wild side. And
well,
the color girls go doot 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 doot.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're at the barbershop looking good, celebrating your very, very huge accomplishment with Cut 50, getting the First Step Act passed. It's like we've been saying, it's a miracle. What about if people who want to help out or get involved or even donate to Cut 50? Is that something that happens, Lou?
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. If your listeners, they want to donate, if they want to show up, if they want to make a contribution of any kind, they can always go to Cut 50. That's cut50.org, and you will see a donate button on there. Or you can get in contact with me directly. I'm on all social media platforms at Louis, Louis, the letter L, Reed. And also you can find me on Instagram as well. You can find me on Louis L. Reed at Instagram, but I love plugging my Instagram name. It's Inspires, the number 4 real. Inspires for real. I just love saying that. It just has
Inspires for real. And you are very inspiring, bud. You really talk about a full life, man. Talk about giving back to your community. Every time I meet you, I'm blown away. I saw the way you riled up your team at the end of the event in Washington. Everybody really looks to you as a leader on this issue, and I thank you for sharing your wisdom with me and my emotional support animals. That's what we call the listeners here, because life is hard.
Much,
we're getting through it together. Louis L. Reed, you're a good man. Congrats on your haircut. Congrats on passing the First Step Act. Anything else we should know, pal? Anything else we should know?
Well, you know what? I would be remiss not to add. Just talking about the power of influence and talking about the power of the momentum around the First Step Act. We had the great benefit of prohibiting an individual by the name of Demetrius Anderson from going back to prison.
I saw that.
And yeah, I think that was a super dope movement, and we got that done within 48 hours. For your listening audience, just to give you guys some context, there was an individual who was in Connecticut by the name of Demetrius Anderson. He had consecutive time, and basically what that means is that he had state time to do, in which he actually served successfully without incident, and he was also supposed to go to the federal prison as well and serve approximately 18 months. What ended up happening was the state released him prematurely. When the state released him prematurely, he had been released after 13 years. After 13 years, the U.S. Marshals did an audit, and they tried to go back to rearrest him. I just happened to see something that he posted on social media.
Wow.
I got in contact with Van Jones. I, mobilized our team, and within 48 hours, the U.S. attorney out of the Eastern District of Pennsylvania rescinded the warrant on his behalf, and we kept him free.
Yeah.
And that is what a movement is. That's how you turn moments into movements, and that's how you make movements into history.
I saw that, man. You made that man so happy, and I did see that attorney on TV promising to take care of it. It's great work that you're doing, bud. Really great. I hope I see you soon, man. I hope I see you soon.
I'm certain that we will. I'll be if you hear the bushes rustling tonight, that will be me stalking you outside your house. So just invite me in for dinner or something.
Send my best to Jessica Jackson and Van Jones and the rest of the folks over there at #Cut50. Lots of love, bud. Be well.
Lots of love, man.
Bye. All right, there we go. Thank you to Louis L. Reed. Check out #Cut50 on Instagram and Twitter.
They also got a website, cut50.org. Go, it's very interesting. It tells you everything you need to know about the First Step Act, their organization, where to donate if you want to help them out. They are a nonprofit, so.
They're really cool people, too. Really great staff.
So what did you, I'm sorry to harp on it, but what did you talk about with Kushner? I mean, you're right there with, so he was like almost a notorious figure.
Well, he's surrounded by people who want his picture, and every single one of them was a Hasidic Jew. I don't know why there were all these Hasidic Jews. There's a charity called Olaf, I guess, that donates towards prison food or something like that, these guys told me. But, Kushner is a revered and loved figure in Israel. He's a Jew in the White House.
Yeah.
And they're moving the embassy to Jerusalem. So the Jews are really happy with Trump, and especially Jared Kushner. So once I was able to fight my way through that with the help of the Marines who really liked me, I really just wanted to congratulate him on this issue.
Yeah.
On pushing this through, because that's what you do. If people don't talk, we never learn anything. We never get anywhere. We just keep yelling at the other side. We keep preaching to the converted. So, I went over and I congratulated him on getting this done. And we chit-chatted a bit, small talk, but I happened to mention that I saw the president right after he got elected, but before he was inaugurated, I saw him at a golf course down in Florida at Trump International, Palm Beach. And I said I played on that golf course with my friends Keith Frankel, Steve Ross. And I got to maybe the 16th hole, and I heard noise. Like a lot of noise, but far away. Like, what is that? A parade? A school? Like, what? I couldn't tell what I could hear. And I asked the caddy, and he said, "Oh, that's Palm Beach County Jail." What? I can hear it from Trump's golf course?
That's crazy.
And I look behind me, and there's a waterfall, and it's the only place in the whole golf course there's a waterfall, which blocks a lot of the noise.
That makes sense.
So I go, wow, what an interesting parallel happening here. People are playing golf while the inmates are out on the yard. Man, talk about an odd juxtaposition. It's like getting surgery in the middle of a party. Playing golf when you can hear people in jail. So I said to Jared Kushner basically that an interesting thing to do if you're ever really feeling compassionate would be on Christmas or New Year's or Thanksgiving. I said if the president ever wanted somebody to go to that jail with him, I said I would just go do a show for those people. And then you should walk in with 100 pizzas after me. Not for the press, not for politics, but just for the people. Let these people know that somebody outside is thinking about them. And do you like pepperoni or mushrooms? It's certainly better than, I don't know, ignoring them.
I mean, it's Florida. They could be in there for anything.
Yeah, man, why, alligator rapists might want some pizza on Thanksgiving. So he really liked that idea. He genuinely seemed like that was something that could happen. And he asked me to give my phone number to him, which made me nervous because now I'm going to get hacked by the Russians.
Oh, man, they had you a long time ago. Let's face it.
Probably.
The moment you put the border special out, they had you. So,
every time I think back, like, I had a Russian girlfriend in college. I'm like, maybe she was a spy. My pot doctor was Russian. I wonder if she would just wanted to get my information. Was she even a doctor?
So I remember watching you like figure out if you wanted to do this or not. If you wanted to go, it was like tormenting you,
right.
You know? And so now that you've gone,
right?
Are you happy you did it? Would you go back?
I would go back for non-political events, for bipartisan. I mean, if you have to use a political word, for bipartisan events.
Yeah.
That are in line with how I feel. You know, I'm a son of a caterer. I love parties. You can't think of a better party than somebody who shouldn't be in jail getting out of jail. It's just a great reason for a party.
Most of them are in there because arguably they party too hard.
This would have been, if I could have walked up there after the president and roasted these 5 former inmates on stage. I mean, look, I know they just got out of jail, but somebody needs to give them some fashion advice. One lady had pink hair. Another guy wore a striped suit that looked like it looked like the leftover fabric from a Biggie Smalls suit in 1980. I'm being insensitive.
The last thing you want to wear when you get out of jail is stripes.
Pinstripes. Oh, that's a good one, Ed. That's a good one. So, yeah, I'm glad I went, man. I'm glad I went.
Good. I'm glad you went too, man. Because you got to, not that you got to give credit where credit's due. It's just, if you just keep yelling and not, yes, there's 2 very blatant sides here. And if you don't acknowledge or even try and talk to the other side when they do something right, we're never going to get to anything accomplished.
It'll just be the way it is, them and us and them.
And Trump's the president, whether we like it or not. And the president has to get stuff done. And so...
Yeah. I always say it's like...
Why would you root for him to be a bad president? It just makes no sense. I don't like him, but I'm not going to sit here and hope that he fails because that means we fail.
That's true. And you want some good stuff to happen no matter what year it is, what day it is.
Yeah.
You want some good stuff to happen.
So you endorse him?
I endorse the First Step Act, a law for criminal justice reform. All right, well, shout out to all the people that are locked up indefinitely on long sentences that they don't necessarily deserve.
All right. I would also like to take this moment to re-plug Troy Powell's Instagram, if that's okay.
Dude, this guy, he just got out of jail, prison, 16 years. We got to get him some friends.
Let's get this guy some followers. Troy.Powell with 3 L's, if he accepts you. Jeff, you got a lot of cool dates coming up. These California shows have been hot. I've been loving them. Oxnard, I know where Oxnard is, and I like it now.
Yeah.
Brea was cool. We sold a shit ton of shirts in Brea.
I love that.
Now La Jolla.
Yeah.
I'm down to check out La Jolla.
I got one more solo warm-up date in La Jolla at the Comedy Store.
May 10th and 11th.
Then I'm going to go out on tour back with my man, my brother, Dave Attell, bumping mics.
Dude, it's going to be amazing.
All new material. Dave will not let me repeat a joke. Bumping mics live.
Oh, man.
First one I think is at the Borgata.
The first one is it's May 24th at the Sands Casino in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, where it was all born.
Yeah, that
The
was one
first
of our
major
first places
show.
we ever went. I love
Bethlehem,
that place.
also the birthplace of Christ. Coincident? I think not.
Bethlehem Event Center. That's going to be big.
And then you're going straight from the land of prayer to the land of sin, Atlantic City, New Jersey, the Music Box, May 25th. Check that out. June 14th, you're going to be at the Calabaz Casino, the Morongo Casino in Calabazon, California, Palm Springs,
Okay.
basically. And in June, you're also going to be at the Mirage for 2 nights. In October, you're going to Huntington, New York, the Paramount
Mirage in
Theater.
Vegas.
The Mirage in Vegas, who everyone knows.
2 nights.
2 nights.
That's a good gig.
Yeah, you and the Tigers.
Oh, man, that's going to be fun.
They got dolphins there at the Mirage. They got a little dolphin tank, and I
Oh, is that
remember
right?
that is where I learned that dolphins don't make noise when they give birth.
Huh.
Learned that in the casino. So
All right,
there
well.
you go.
Save it for another podcast. Dolphin sex trivia.
Roast Battle's going to be a Clusterfest Friday, June 21st. You, Anthony Jeselnik's going to be hanging out.
And a lot of really good battlers. A lot of really good battlers.
Robin Tran?
I can't announce them all yet, but it's
I'll keep-
okay. No, there'll be there's going to be some hot battles and some great judges up at and by the way, Clusterfest itself is really going to be cool.
Yeah.
I'm psyched they're having me.
You
My
did it
second
last
year in a
year.
row. I did a show at Wu-Tang last year. This year I'm doing Roast Battle. They've been good to me. It'll be fun. I love San Francisco.
Oh, yeah.
Where should I stay? Where should I eat? Somebody write us.
You got to get that Dungeness crab, man.
thickskinwithjeffross@gmail. I want some food suggestions for San Francisco.
Jeff wants your food suggestions. I want your feedback. Let us know what you like about the show, what you don't like about the show. Hell, just say hi to us at thickskinwithjeffross@gmail. Rate and review us on iTunes. You check us out on Spotify. We're rocking over there now. Hit Jeff up on cameo.com. Who'll make you a video. How are those going?
That's fun.
You
It's
love
so much
it.
fun. It's so much fun. I love making fun of people. People will buy them for their friends. Gilbert Gottfried turned me onto this thing.
Yeah.
And, you just basically hold your phone in front of your face and you read, basically who your shout out is to.
Yeah.
And,
They give you a couple details. You roast their parents, that kind of thing.
So much fun. Cameo.com.
Go check that out, guys. And Instagram, Thick Skin with Jeff Ross, and Twitter, Thick Skin Cast. How you doing?
Good
How you
show,
feel?
bud.
Hey, good show to you, man. And thanks for sticking up for people who need to be stuck up for.
Hell yeah, bro.
They're not all bad people. Just because you make one bad choice doesn't mean the rest of your life has to be freaking ruined.
We're so obsessed with punishment in this country. It's fucking crazy.
All right, man. Well, love you, pal. See you next week. Well, I'll see you tomorrow, but we'll talk.
Love
on
you
here
too,
next
Ed.
week.
Thanks. Thanks, everybody, for listening. I love you all. My emotional support humans. Later.